Chairman Ian Johnson, Professor Anarelli, colleagues and friends, for the opportunity to speak today. Helmar Nielsen was a wholehearted and vocal champion of the liberal arts. I guess he's with us in the machine right now. His generosity to Eckerd College is evident all around us, both in this building, which bears his name, and in his campus leadership legacy as a long-serving trustee, chair of the Board of Trustees Academic Affairs Committee, member of ASPEC, and as chair of the college's Spiritual Life Council. His support for Eckerd is in the Nielsen Center for Liberal Arts that allows faculty further connection to their vocation. The Film Studies Center here in the CVA that makes visual communication accessible to the entire campus community. It's evident in the Nielsen Film Production grants that allow students greater access to the professional world of moving images, and not the least in 2 professorships in film and digital media studies, one of which I've had the pleasure of occupying, and you will not be able to push me out anytime soon, for the last 12 years. I could also discuss Helmar's support for faculty development through the Lloyd W. Chapin Faculty Development Endowment, which supported my first book and the work of so many other faculty. But I'd like to spend the rest of my time today sharing a few memories of Helmar as a mentor, colleague, and especially as a friend. Helmar once described philanthropy as a kind of artistic endeavor, where he would invest in ideas and people to see those pathways flourish. Helmar believed in spirited discourse and discussion above all, as many of you know, which I learned the first day I met him, which was also my first day teaching at Eckerd. I had brought a list of films that I had programmed for our international cinema series, and I was very proud of the little theme that I had put together with those films that each would reflect upon the nature of film and filmmaking. Helmar briefly looked at the list, quickly discerned this theme, and then mused in his direct way that many of you may recognize, saying, "That's wrong." I asked him what he meant, and he said, quote, "Films shouldn't just be about other films. They should think about things outside of them, life, love, the spiritual." It took me a moment to take in that criticism as a new professor, but I quickly appreciated Helmar's singular talent. He could see to the heart of a matter in an instant and would offer a clear opinion in order to start a conversation on things that mattered. Indeed, once after a brief interchange a few years later, I found a copy of a poem in my campus mailbox that Helmar had mailed to me to further illustrate an idea he thought I would appreciate. And I still chuckle at the way he turned an invitation to his daughter's wedding into a spiritual directive, warning, quote, "It will be a partially Buddhist ceremony, so you may want to straighten out your whole life just in case." I'm still working on that, Helmar. I'm still working on that. Over the years, I've counted myself lucky, not just for being the recipient of his generosity toward Eckerd and film studies, but of his friendships, of the invitations to meet his daughter, his granddaughter, his son-in-law, and of course his cat Molly, who never really took to me. As those who knew him can attest, Helmar had that rare gift to immediately discern value when he encountered it, whether in ideas, in people, or in the connection between the two, and to make people feel valued through his interest. I will miss Helmar not only as a friend, but as a colleague in the liberal arts. He was a one of a kind, as unique as one of his signature neckties. He was a model for civic, business, and intellectual engagement, and the world and we are poorer for the loss of him.
I'd like to invite a friend and colleague of Helmar's, Steve Lushner, to come forward to say a few words.
Thank you. My name is Steve Lushner. I'm the CEO of one of Helmar's companies, Cardinal Tracking, out of Texas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share some stories and talk a little bit about my experience that I've had working with such a great man. The theme that you will hear today, and you've already heard some, is Helmar's passion for education. and making sure that that education is available to as many people as possible, in as many ways as possible. Whether that's through colleges and universities and the support there. I know that he's through the years supported theological seminaries, even the support of K through 12 schools, prep schools, and all of that. Clearly, it was a running theme with Helmar and the importance of that. My contribution to that theme is the same, but a little bit different. I would say that over the past 20 years, I've directly attended Helmar Nielsen University. I've worked with him in business and in all of the things that we've worked with together. If you go to Helmar Nielsen University, you're required to take classes in business, theology, even some political science here and there, which is often a required subject, I would say. I'm not sure if I ever graduated with a degree from there, but I certainly received an education. I've been with Cardinal Tracking for over 30 years. And soon after I started working there, Helmar started, coming to the office. He would make several trips a year. In that area, he would come from St. Pete. And I wasn't as a part of the business team at that time. I came on board as a developer, so I wasn't directly working with him, but he did make a point to come by and talk to me as well as everybody in the company, which is kind of rare, but he did participate in that. I worked there as a number of years in the development department, and in 2004 he approached me and said, "I think you could be the new president and CEO." My answer was immediately no. I said that I'm a developer. I want to work in the dark writing code somewhere. I don't want to be in charge of a company and dealing with all of the politics and all of that. But he said, "We'll do this together." And that's what we've done, and that's what we've been doing for all these years. My first week as CEO, I was trying to get a handle of everything and figure everything out, sending emails. So emails were still kind of rare back in the day, back in 2004, but they were pretty common. And I received my first email from Helmar. It came across the fax machine. It was handwritten on 4 pages of yellow legal pad. And so if any of you have ever seen Helmar's handwriting, you know it's a challenge in itself, not considering that it's coming through the fax machine. So he had to learn some things along the way too if we were going to be able to work together, for sure. My college attendance with Helmar was remote learning as we worked in different areas of the country. But I also made many trips to St. Pete to work with him in different locations, including his home. We'd have many meetings there, sitting in his living room, working through many problems and learning quite a bit. There were many valuable collaborations. I learned many tips and tricks and a lot of things that I don't think that you can get from a business book or a business seminar. One of the examples that just the way that Helmar's mind works, we were struggling. We had a large client. That client had 5 or 6 different people that we worked with, and none of those people worked together in that company. We were trying really hard to get them to all come together and collaborate and work with us, and we couldn't seem to make that work. They all had their own agendas. And Helmar asked me, he said, do you send them a gift for Christmas? I said, yeah, we send them, cookies or brownies or Omaha steaks, whatever it was. He said, well, make sure when you send it the next time, that when you fill out the card, put all of their names on each card, every person's name, not just their name when you're putting on the card. And I asked him, why would I do that? He said, because then they all know within their organization who's getting the gift, and they're going to talk about it amongst themselves. And they're going to say, what did you get? What did you get? And it would bring them all together. And it worked, and they all talked, and they got together, and we were able to work with the company. So it's just an example of, some of the ways that his mind worked that you didn't think about when you're normally dealing with that. One of the things that really sticks with me and I use today is Helmar had rules, and he had his rules for business, and he shared those with me early on. I know he shared those with the CEOs of his other companies, and I want to share a couple of them with you today so that you can remember them and maybe you can use them in your business or your life as well. When we're talking about hiring, Helmar always used what he said was his rule of 2s. You always look for who you need today. Are they going to be able to fill the needs you need today? But what can they do further on down the road? What is that second benefit that they can bring? Maybe it's another interest that you can help them grow, that you can help them develop. But he was always looking for that second set. He always had his rule of many hats, where he felt, people could, it's a struggle for us. He's very against job descriptions because he didn't want to limit people, and he wanted people to be able to grow. People can wear many hats and they can do many different things. He had a general rule of you can do more with less, which is a challenge for us at times. But he always felt like adding too many people to a project could confuse it and make it take longer to accomplish. He was very passionate about marketing. His marketing rules was everything is too cheap. And his biggest one is buying is emotional. And I think that's kind of what carried him through a lot in business, because he was very, emotional about business. And it was amazing when we would come together as a software company. We often spend our time focusing on features. And he said, no, focus on the emotions, what's important, to the customer, what's going to make them pull the trigger and do all of that as well. So I use these rules. There are many others. I won't give you the entire book, but there are quite a few that I continue to use today and share with all of the people that I work with also. There's a town called Ashtabula. I don't know if any of you've heard of it. Laura's laughing. I found out that it's actually a real town in Ohio. I didn't know that until I looked that up, because every example, every business proposition we talked about, Helmar said that would work in Ashtabula. And so I came to know it as kind of a fictional place where all the business rules happen. So it was great. I will say that Helmar continues to surprise me. He always surprised me. And even though I'd worked with him for over 20 years, on my last trip here, where I was able to come here to Ecker to be part of his award and recognition ceremony, which was wonderful to be a part of, we went back to his house afterwards, and I noticed on his shelf there was a box set of the Monty Python Flying Circus. Never in my life would I have thought that Helmar was a fan of Monty Python Flying Circus, and if you're not, you need to make the effort to find that out. So when you go home today, go to YouTube, look up Monty Python Flying Circus, and look up the Lumberjack song. When you hear that, and when you laugh, know that Helmar's laughing with you, because his sense of humor was just wonderful and is an amazing part of him. He's made, a huge impact on my life, on all the people that we work with, and he's certainly being missed, but I really feel confidently that he will continue to live on in all of the rules and all the lessons and all the things that he's taught us, not only in education and the buildings that he's built, which are amazing, but in the people that he's developed. So I will certainly miss him, but I will continue to think of him and work in his honor and his respect as we move forward. Thank you.
Very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its tumult. There is a river, whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of the city, it shall not be moved. God will help it when the morning dawns. Be still and know that I am God. I am exalted among the nations. I am exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge.
I'm Susan Walker, member of the Board of Trustees. I served with Helmar for 22 years on the board. I was 12 when I began. You all may recognize what I'm doing. Did you ever see Helmar Nielsen without red reading glasses?
No.
This is now, for me, the sign of a gentleman and a scholar, and I wear them in his memory. I'm honored today to present the resolution of the Eckerd College Board of Trustees honoring the memory of Helmar E. Nielsen, 1936 to 2024. Whereas Helmar E. Nielsen, a son of Swaledale, Iowa, emerged from the halls of higher learning at William Jewell College, Bucknell University, Boston University School of Law, and the Johns Hopkins University, not only with knowledge, but also with an entrepreneurial and innovative spirit, a devotion to the arts, and a love for explorations related to the life of the mind and the nature of the human spirit. And whereas seeing in Eckerd College's educational program a premier example of what he believed a liberal arts institution should offer, Mr. Nielsen joined the Board of Trustees in 1994, where he further served as chair of the board's Academic Affairs Committee for 2 decades. Whereas always seeking to support the students, programs, and priorities of the college, Mr. Nielsen personally enabled, through his philanthropy, the creation of the Helmar and Enoel Nielsen Center for Visual Arts here, the Nielsen Center for the Liberal Arts, the Christian Nielsen Professorship for Film Studies, an endowed professorship in digital film and media studies, the Nielsen Fund for the Humanities, the Nielsen Fund for Film and Media Studies, the Nielsen Film and Media Production Grants, the Lloyd W. Chapin Faculty Development Endowment, and student scholarships. And whereas Mr. Nielsen participated fully in the life of the college, not only as a devoted member of the Board of Trustees, where he served as a trustee emeritus until the time of his passing, but also as chair of the college's Spiritual Life Council, as an active member of the Academy of Senior Professionals at Eckerd College, as an honorable member of the Cadle Society, and as an engaged patron of college lectures and events. And whereas his unmatched dedication to the college inspired the establishment of its highest honor, the Helmar E. Nielsen Medal, awarded to those who have demonstrated exceptional devotion to the college and to its mission of undergraduate liberal arts education through extraordinary service, advocacy, and generosity, with Mr. Nielsen celebrated as the award's inaugural recipient in 2025. Now therefore be it resolved that the Eckerd College Board of Trustees wishes that all members of our academic community and beyond know of the college's highest esteem for Helmar E. Nielsen, its profound gratitude for his contributions to the future of Eckerd College, and the deep sense of loss the trustees feel for their colleague. And be it further resolved that this resolution be made a part of the permanent minutes of the Board of Trustees of Eckerd College, and a copy of the resolution be presented to Mr. Nielsen's daughter, Enoel M. Nielsen, and the family. In witness whereof, we have set our hands and affixed the corporate seal, dated this 8th day of February, 2025, in the city of St. Petersburg, Florida.
The extraordinarily complex and multifaceted nature of Helmar Nielsen makes it exceedingly difficult to fully capture who Helmar was, or to fully grasp the multi-leveled impact that he has had on the individuals and organizations who were fortunate enough to be associated with him. Witness, for example, his full and rich life history, his incisive and brilliant mind, his engaging personality, his mischievous sense of humor, his deep personal and professional relationships, his entrepreneurial spirit, his aesthetic sensibilities, his professional accomplishments, his extraordinary generosity, and his deep yet unconventional faith. Each of these is a part of who he was, although no one of these defined him. As we have heard, Helmar has been a trustee of Eckerd College since 1994, and I came to know him initially through his exercise of that role. But as the years passed, and particularly during my 2 decades as Vice President and Dean of Students, Helmar became for me a friend and a partner in dialogue. My academic training is in the areas of theological and religious studies, and these are areas of intellectual exploration in which Helmar was particularly interested. This became the common ground on which our relationship would grow through the years. Even in situations in which we were brought together for a meeting for a distinct college-related purpose, once our work was done, our conversation would naturally shift to such topics as human meaning and the human condition, the spiritual as contrasted with the traditionally religious dimensions of human experience, the spiritual dimensions of the liberal arts, characteristics of well-crafted prayers, the nature of good liturgy, or the art of effective preaching. And believe me, pardon me, Helmar was very tough on preachers. Through the years, Helmar would share with me articles, book chapters, poems, and prayers. And these would become the focus of our conversation at our next meeting or visit. Now, as many of you know, one of Helmar's favorite thinkers was the 20th century German-American philosopher and theologian Paul Tillich. Tillich's thought resonated with Helmar insofar as Tillich wrestled with many of the fundamental dimensions of faith, meaning, and human existence that occupied Helmar's mind. Tillich writes about the types of existential anxiety that characterize human experience, anxiety related to guilt, to death, and to meaninglessness, and how the response is a radical courage of self-affirmation, the courage to be. I know that Tillich's explorations of death, the most anxiety-producing dimension of human experience, were particularly interesting to Helmar. Among the various articles and writings that Helmar shared with me in 2022 was a prayer that he wrote many years prior that reflects Helmar's thoughts on death. There was a sticky note on the cover of this prayer. The sticky note attached to this prayer read as follows: Jim, a prayer I wrote on the sudden death of a member of my Sunday school class at Myers Park Baptist in Charlotte. I thought you might be interested in my, quote, take, close quote, of death, H. On this occasion, it seems particularly fitting and indeed a blessing to hear Helmar's voice by reading his prayer in its entirety. A prayer for those who mourn Jim Carson. only wise God who gives life in a body, God who takes that life away. God of all surprise and shock, merciful God who has so stunned us by the death of our beloved husband and friend, hear our cautious prayer. We are angry, God. In our partial light, you have not been fair. Your way is inscrutable to us, and our trust in you trembles. Draw close to us, God of love, that we may find our peace again. Give us lively grief. Let our hearts wail like the wind over the memory and loss of the one we loved with true hearts. Give us a measure of new wisdom to somehow comprehend how death is within life and not an end. Open a new place in our hearts to trust that your love of life, which created us, is also eternal. Out of the dull ache of our grief, give us the gift whereby the death of Jim may be a revelation to our own lives of new life closer to you and more loving to each other. We pray this in the name of the man Jesus, with whom we know we share the sense of a sadness in life, and whom to draw closer to you we have also called the Christ. To borrow and to paraphrase Helmar's own words, give us the gift whereby the death of Helmar may be a revelation to our own lives, that we may emulate our friend and love freely, live fully, give generously, think deeply and incisively, and in the face of meaninglessness and death, have the courage and faith to affirm meaning and life. Amen.